Welcome to The Wellness Way with me, Philly J. Lay, a layperson's guide to your natural health systems, your very own NHS. Hello, lovely people, and welcome to another episode of The Wellness Way. And as we go into the new year, I want to talk about the diet dilemma. We're told so many different things about diet, and most of it is complete and utter shit. And I just wanted to get to the bottom of it because there is so much information that you're not told. So I brought on today the wonderful Ryan Martin. He is an author, a speaker, a podcast host, trying to get this information out as well. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
No, thank you for having me. Yes, I like the way you speak. It's like me, straight into the point and no mucking around. So you made me smile already.
Well, we haven't got time to waste anymore. So let's crack on with it. I'm going to ask you a question. Calories in, calories out. What does it mean?
Well, if you listen to a lot of the health, I say fitness gurus, I should say, because health and fitness are not even really in the same league in terms of the fitness industry these days. They push so many things that are not conducive to your health, and there's lots of influencers out there with huge followings, and they love to get clicks, and they like to I say massage their ego, and they say things that unfortunately the uneducated public will fall for, and it's like easy wins for them. I did a video on this just recently because I get tagged in so many things, and there's a particular influencer out there who has said so many things that are incorrect, that are causing so many people harm. And it's like gaslighting them. He also had a stance on the thing that we can't mention.
Sorry to interrupt this podcast. Why don't you come and sign up to my newsletter at phillyjlay.com, where we can keep connected and we can talk about lots of things going on in the world. You will also get my free manifestation meditation so you can become a shit-hot manifester too. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. And turn your notifications on so you never miss an episode. Thank you.
That probably led to lots of people dying or destroying their health.
Dying suddenly.
Yeah, dying suddenly. The only thing they won't question is the thing that is actually doing it. So when it comes to calories in, calories out, look, it is important, but it's not the be all and end all. And I've even, because I deal with a lot of people with chronic health issues, advanced diseases, etc. And I've heard him even say, this guy. I mean, I could say his name if you want, James Smith, whatever. There's loads of them out there, but he was saying that even people with fibromyalgia, it doesn't exist. If you just reduce your calories and exercise more, it's going to go away. And I'm just like, wow, this guy is either hugely incompetent or he's just moronic. And so, and it's saying things like that that can lead to a lot of people, if they believe you and they think that I've been trying. It can lead people down the wrong path, and it can cause a lot of people serious health issues. So with calories in, calories out, yes, you can't be just throwing caution to the wind and eating too much and not moving. But there's so many other factors that come into it when it comes to the metabolism. Your metabolism isn't fixed, it's fluid. And so if you keep on just eating less and moving more, what happens eventually is your metabolism grinds to a halt. And it happens so often. You see lots of women who, after they've given birth, they just try to eat hardly anything and do lots of HIIT exercise, high intensity exercise, and eventually it gets to the point where I've had so many reach out to me, Ryan, I've dropped my calories and I'm working out harder than ever, but I'm putting on weight. I look bloated, I'm holding water, and it's simply because their body goes into starvation mode. It starts to think, well, I don't know where I'm going to get my next meal from or my next influx of calories. And so I best hold on to that water. I best hold on to some nutrition. Otherwise, I could be in serious trouble here. I could go into that. You start to actual starvation. And so the metabolism will slow right down to protect you. And it happens to so many people. I said they've done studies on this where they've actually looked at tribes in terms of the distance that they cover every day. And they walk like 6 miles a day. compared to people that are more sedentary in offices, to see how many calories they burn a day. And people will be thinking, on average, the tribal members will be burning so many calories. They walk 6 miles a day, they're lifting, they're on their feet all day. And actually looked at the amount of calories they burnt wasn't too dissimilar to someone who walked an hour a day and exercised in the weight room, for example, because their metabolism had learned that was the optimal amount of calories to burn. Because if they kept on burning more and more calories, then they whittle away to nothing, And when you see these tribal members, you look at any of the tribes, they're not skin and bone and malnourished. They are lean, but they're healthy. And unfortunately, fortunately for us, the metabolism is clever, and it starts to be like, okay, if I'm constantly working out this burning, if I'm burning, 2,000 calories, but I'm only taking in 800, and there's that 1,400 calorie deficit to 1,200 calorie deficit.
Yep.
Yeah, you keep on doing that, then eventually it's going to be like, well, I'm not going to have enough calories to survive, so it will slow metabolism down. And so, as I said, the metabolism isn't just, there's many ways to manipulate it. There's like, obviously it's eat less, move more, but then there's eat less, move less, eat more, move less, and eat more, move more. And so you can sort of trick the metabolism. And so it's super important to understand how to do this and to understand how the metabolism works. It happens a lot as well when you see women or men go and do like a physique show, and they're given such low calories and they're training 2-3 times a day that after they finish the show, they balloon up because their metabolism was completely like on the floor, and they just started eating normally, and their body just can't burn that amount of calories, so they just put on so much weight, and they look like they're swollen. And this is where a whole new areas come in. Well, it's not new, but it's getting more and more traction. It's called reverse dieting, where you gradually increase someone's calories over time so their metabolism can burn more. And so there's so many things that impact your body's ability to burn fat, to store fat. Your stress levels are so important with this as well. We live in a world today where people are overly stressed. They're trying to be everything to everyone.
And a toxic world. We live in a completely toxic world.
Such a toxic world. The world is the most toxic it's ever been. We're exposed to 100,000 industrial toxins every day, aerial toxins. That's about the toxins we're exposed to inside, like the air inside your house, your office buildings, 10 times more toxic than the air outside. VOCs, pollutants, plastics, microplastics, heavy metals, chemicals, all these things that are off-gassing. And so these things impact your endocrine system, which is like impacts your hormonal system. They suppress your energy metabolism, and that can lead to anxiety and depression. Stress does this as well. People are so stressed, they're not even taking time to eat their food. They're eating on the go. They're not even looking at what they're eating. They're eating processed food, refined foods. Your body can't digest or metabolize, assimilate, eliminate that. And so, it's like we've got this.
It's a minefield, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
It's
a
an absolute
minefield. Yeah, people have got
minefield.
irritable mind syndrome, where they're just got racing mind. They're trying to like educate themselves, protect their family, fight the tyranny that's going on. You've got single mothers trying to be beautiful, trying to look after their kid, trying to earn a wage, trying to be a family on their own. Then you've got dads that are out there trying to earn enough with what the world's going on, probably not sleeping, not exercising enough, not eating correctly, and it's just exhausting, and it adds more and more stress. And so when you add all that up, it's like calories in, calories out. You think that's the only thing affecting the body? It's crazy. The body's really clever. As I don't think we touched on this, but the body obviously doesn't want you to come into any harm. And so we're exposed to all these toxins and chemicals. The body's very clever. It wraps toxins in fat, so those toxins don't destroy the nervous system, the neurological system. It doesn't impact your organs. And so it's why you see cattle, they get sold by their weight. And unfortunately, all that fat is generally just full of toxins. So if you're eating cattle and you love the fat, and unless it's been an organically farmed or biodynamically farmed animal, then you're eating a hell of a lot of toxins. And those animals have been fed things like plastic pellets, sawdust, rendered food. You want to look into rendered food. I mean,
Tell us a little bit about rendered food then.
rendered food is like, in fact, I'll let, I'll let people go and have a look. Type in rendered food on YouTube and go and have a look and see if you want to be eating that. I mean, they're not legally allowed to feed that to you, but they can feed it to the cattle. And so then you're eating, and then also like cattle are not meant to eat corn. They're meant to graze. They're herbivores. They're meant to chew the cud. They've shown that just by feeding a cow grass diet for 2 weeks, it can get rid of 80% of the E. coli. But no, they don't want to do that. They want to have cows in like CAFOs where they're not moving up to their knees in feces, injecting them with hormones and vaccines, and then they spray that meat with, basically bleach, chlorine, to try and get rid of the bad bacteria. It's like this is a diseased animal you're feeding people, and so if you're eating even food like that, you remember you're taking on that energy. Everything's frequency, so you're
Yeah.
eating the animal that is diseased. He's probably lived a terrible life. Very different to an animal that's been out roaming in the pasture, chewing the
And
cud.
also putting nutrients back into the soil. That's why they're there, to put nutrients back into the soil. I saw a terrible movie about 10 years ago. I think it was the Health Food Revolution. And there was an interview and a clip that they showed. Somebody had managed to get the footage of a big, big truck that had fallen over, and out of the back came a shitload of M&Ms, the sweets, but they weren't in bags, they were loose,
Mm.
and they were all over the road. And so this person filming went up and said, why are you transporting all of these? Where are they going? He said, oh, they're going up for the cattle. And so this guy started searching, and he discovered that these sweets were taken up, excess sweets full of chemicals, not just fed to the cattle, because the cattle wouldn't eat that shit. They still do, drill holes in the
Really?
cattle's side and pour this toxic food to them in to fatten them up. And I was so unbelievably shocked when I saw that. I mean, I was retching, and it's what the fuck? What are we doing to our food chain? It is
Yeah.
quite extraordinary. But I'm actually going to take you back a little bit now, Ryan, because I know that your degree is as a sports psychologist, sports scientist. You trained in nutrition, and you came out of uni with, I suppose, the 45,000 debt that every other uni child has. And out of learning everything that you learned about nutrition and sports science at university, how much of that do you use in your practice today?
I'd say absolutely zero. I mean, I was just trying to think if there's anything I use. I mean, even like when it comes to water, like what they were teaching isn't correct. So, yeah, absolutely none. And the funny thing is, ended up going to Hartpury College, which was the sports excellence side of UWE, University of West of England. It was basically we had football players, rugby players, modern pentathlon, and horse riders, equestrian, I think it's called. And so it was everyone who's there. Then they had Olympians go there, lots of professional rugby players go there, and so everyone there was trying to become a professional athlete. And so sports science, nutrition, it was like, I mean, at the time Hartpury's rugby team. Now they have a Saturday team which plays one league below the Premierships. And when I was there, we were just starting out, so we went up all these leagues. And what I'm trying to say is like we were beating Loughborough and Bath and all these teams, for example, by lots of points. We had a lot of people who were very, very good at sport there, and everyone was super into sports science, etc. And so you're thinking like what we would be learning would be, helping our performance. Unfortunately, I think it's amazing what the human body can do, and a lot of people will succeed just in spite of their training and nutrition, not because of it. The mind's hugely powerful. But everything we learned there, unfortunately, it's when I was going through my own health crisis at the time, and everything we learned there and I applied to myself just made me more ill and more toxic, and it's led to me being in a lot of pain. But
So
it's
I'm going to ask you there just to tell the audience a little bit about your health crisis. I've seen photographs of you, and it was truly horrible for you as a teenager to have to go through this. So, can you just tell us what started you on this journey?
Yeah. I will. I'll just add to that. Like when you look at nutrition done by universities, like all of it's funded by big food corporations, and so you just have to follow the money, not the quote unquote science. Follow the money, and you'll see where things end up. But yeah, my health journey started my health crisis started when I was like 16, 17. I had pretty bad acne on my chest and back and in my face. And then, unfortunately, my best friend died in a car crash. And generally, these things can trigger deeper emotional responses. So you either get a chemical response, which can be to a drug, recreational drug, or can be through a medication. Then you get an emotional response, which can be like someone dying or someone getting cancer, and a physical one, which is like maybe you can get a car crash or an accident. Mine was like, well, I was taking medication for the acne, and then I had my best friend died, and it pushed my body into this response where, unfortunately, the acne just got so bad. It turned into, I'm just going to give you the footnotes, but it turned into keloid scarring, really bad cystic acne all over my chest and back, my neck, behind my ears, super painful. It overhealed, and generally keloid scarring is in like African American or African people getting more, but I had it all over my chest and back, and it was like me. I used to play rugby with two shirts because I used to bleed through my shirts, and that then healed over into like rubbery nodules. I didn't take my shirt off for 7 years because I was just super embarrassed, even in rugby changing rooms. And then I started to develop cysts in my groins and in my like literally in the crease, my top of my bum, below my back, and these just kept on. They would grow for about 4 or 5 weeks, and they would burst, and I get huge relief. And then through like it was like 18 months, 3 years, they kept on getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and to the point where I was excruciating. I managed to play rugby at university. I played for Nottingham. I then went and played in New Zealand. Before I went to New Zealand, I was on all the medication. They started giving me medication. They said, well, we should give you Accutane. I didn't know any better at the time.
So,
Accutane,
repeat. Yeah, okay.
yeah, Accutane or Accutane. If I knew then what I know now, I never would have took it. Vitamin A derivative linked to linked to liver failure, liver issues. Out in the sun, you'd burn in it because it just dries your skin out. 100% chance of birth defect for any woman taking it, so they're not allowed to get pregnant while you're on it.
Wow,
It's
didn't know that.
countries have been sued for having it. Anyway, so I was on this drug and I was on it. I went to New Zealand, and it did get rid of my acne, but the cysts kept on coming, and they were so painful. I used to like put sellotape, not sellotape. We used to put plasters over these cysts, like and tape just so they couldn't rub on my groins and when I was back. And then I even was playing when I was playing for rugby in New Zealand. I was playing for Canterbury, which was a professional setup, and we could get to the doctor. And I said to him, mate, this keeps on coming. And he said, well, let's get you tested. So they did a lot of biopsy on this. They squeezed one of the cysts, and it was excruciating pain. It come out, they biopsied it, and they said, well, we didn't get anything back, so they had to do it again. It was horrific. They just put me on antibiotics to cover it, and I had been on lots of antibiotics anyway. It was just something I kept on going through more and more antibiotics. I finally came back to England, then got a contract to play in Scotland. The pain was so much that I couldn't play anymore, and it was rugby is like a very macho environment. You're not going to say to the coach, I've got a few cysts or whatever. It's not something you really talk about.
Yeah, I've got a boil in my bum. They're just
Yeah.
going to laugh their heads off, aren't
Yeah,
they?
it's called like Jeep seat. But if you see this, like I remember once I was after I came back to England because I just couldn't play anymore, I went to see my dermatologist. And he was like, "Well, we're giving you medication, and they give me a Accutane." Then they put me on steroids, which blew me up from 77 to 97 kg, basically. My skin was red and blotchy. They got rid of the acne until I come off them, where it all come back. I was having like 60 to 100 steroid injections in my chest and in my back to reduce the keloid scarring. Nothing they do would work. And so he even recommended bleach baths for me. I was getting in baths with bleach,
Oh,
yeah, to try and do this, yeah. Something I actually forgot about until recently. My mum said, "Do you remember that?" I was like, "Oh my God, I've actually blocked that out because I wanted to rip my skin off because it was so bad."
oh
And
my God.
then I remember just being like I was around my sister's house sitting once, and I was just like, I was almost in tears with the amount of pain for these cysts. And we went out to eat lunch and it burst. And I was at this pub and all this pus just burst and come down my leg. And I was super embarrassed, but I was so happy because it had burst. And now I was just like, what am I going to do? So the dermatologist said, well, there's nothing more we can really do, but I recommend you to a surgeon. And I was like, look, whatever you need to do, just get these out of me. Um, so recommended to me to a surgeon. They said, yeah, we'll operate, we'll cut these cysts out, we'll pack them, and they'll be gone. So I went and got cut open by these surgeons, anesthetic again, more antibiotics afterwards, and everything was good until it wasn't, and it came back, which we now know is because I wasn't getting to the root cause of what was going on. So they said, well, this time we'll do it again. We'll cut deeper. We'll do a different way of sewing you up. So I went and got cut up again. Had the embarrassment of my wounds being packed by my parents again. Excruciating pain and more antibiotics, more anesthetic. And once again, everything was good until 6 weeks later, it wasn't, and they came back. This time, unfortunately, because of the amount of anesthetics I'd had and the antibiotics, I developed thrush of the mouth, which was one of the most painful things I've ever experienced. It was like someone sticking a knife in my mouth every time I tried to eat. And my gut was completely destroyed. So if I did get anything down, it was like someone ripping a knife across my gut. And so
Oh, holy crap. I mean, you just can't imagine. How old were you at this time?
23. I was just 20, I was 23, and I was lucky enough the World Football World Cup was on, so I was sitting on my parents' couch. I didn't want to. I literally was like, I was in such a bad way, and I developed because of everything that had gone on. I'd actually developed Epstein-Barr virus and like really bad levels of glandular fever. And I was sitting on my parents' couch, and we just moved to a new house. And my mum was like, "Can you help your dad move some stuff?" I was like, "Mum, I literally have got no energy." She's like, "Well, what's wrong with you? Like, you should be helping your dad out." And I was like, "Mum," she's like, "If it's that bad, go to the doctor again and get tested." So I went and got tested, and they said, you've got the highest levels of glandular fever we've seen in like 15, 20 years. And she apologized for having a go at me. But it was like I was in such a bad way because my system was just completely destroyed. And I was sitting on the couch, and the only thing I could enjoy was watching sport. Now I've gone from being this happy-go-lucky sportsman, lots of friends, going out all the time, enjoying life, to like not wanting to be here. This is what life was going to be like. I was literally like, if this is what life's going to be like, no thanks. But I come across, there was a show on called Behind the Ropes, which was Sky Sports documenting prize fighters, and they had a show where it was documented David Haye and his training camp for the heavyweight title of the world, and he was fighting Nikola Valuev, who's like a giant. And they went to his house in Miami, and they were looking at his training, his diet, etc. And it's where I first come across my first mentor, a guy called Ruben Tabares, who he didn't know at the time was going to be my mentor, but Ruben was talking about how he was getting David in shape, and he was talking about David's diet. He was juicing, he was having things like probiotics, fermented food, about how he was making sure David wasn't toxic. He was talking about so many things that I've been in a world of professional sport with Nottingham, with Gloucester, with Canterbury, having these protein powders and these luminous drinks and all these supplements that are just 99% on the market are garbage. I didn't know at the time, but I was taking them because
Just
you know,
crap. I mean, crammed with fillers and crap, basically.
and you take them because you're thinking, well, if Dan Carter, the best rugby player in the world, is taking them, then of course, it's what we do. But Ruben was talking about all these things, and I was like, right, this guy, I need to speak to this guy. So I found out, I researched him, I found out where he worked, the gym that he worked at. I rang them up, told them my situation. They said, look, we'll pass the message on to him, and we'll see if we can get him in contact with you. Like the next day I was in the bath and I got a phone call, and it was him. And he said, look, I've been through this myself. I know what you're dealing with. Come in and see me. I'll talk to you, and we'll sort this out. So next day I booked in to see him. Went down to London to speak to him. I think it was like £350 at the time for an hour of his time. Best money I ever spent. And he proceeded to tell me like what was going on. He like got me to stick my tongue out. He said, "Look, you've got a candida overgrowth in your tongue. You're highly toxic. Everything you've been doing is your diet and lifestyle has led you to this point. What we're going to do is we're going to, detoxify your body. We're going to put you on the right diet. I want you to go and see my biological medicine practitioner. We're going to get you on some homeopathic remedies. We're going to test to see if you've got high levels of heavy metals, etc." And so that's what I did. He put a diet out for me. I started taking these things, like these foods I never even heard of before, like tinctures and things like, well, probiotics, fermented foods. I mean, at the time I was taking things like milk thistle and dandelion root and taking pau d'arco tea. And I was like, what is this? Um, and I didn't know, because I was just, a
No.
normal guy. And at the time, now I know when people come to me, they're like, "What's the dose of this?" and what's this? And because it's new to them. For me, I've been doing it 15 years now. It's like, yeah, okay, we just blend it in. It just becomes part of your lifestyle. But he's also sent me to see my biological doctor, who I now use with my clients. And because he wanted to test me to see what had been, what he, yeah, if I had heavy metals or parasites, etc., what was going on. And yeah, and he has like a toxic chart as well. And he says, like, if if you get to your toxicity level of 30, we start looking for cancer. And I was at 28. So I was extremely
You
toxic.
were
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, very close. I had super high levels of mercury. I had many different parasites: Coxsackie A, Coxsackie B, Epstein-Barr virus. I had polio vaccine remnants from that, and aluminium and other things in me. So he gave me like certain tinctures, certain remedies. Combined that with my diet and the detoxification practices that I did. Within 6 weeks, I was like a different person. Within 12, I was unrecognizable. And I never looked back. I spent the next 3 years studying with Ruben, and we're still close friends to this day. I went around the world and learned from other experts. And everything that I learned, I've then put into, helping people, because I wanted to get this message out to people, because I hated seeing people suffering unnecessarily. So many people are out there dealing with health issues, and it doesn't matter. The key thing, having spoken to all these people, these experts, and I've got a podcast myself. I've spoken to so many over the last 4 or 5 years, just my podcast, let alone the years before. But it was, your illness isn't unique. No matter what your doctor tells you, you're not deficient in medication, and you weren't
Oh, I
born
love that saying.
you weren't born with too many organs. You don't need them cut out. And so it doesn't. It's like people think, oh yeah, people still come to me, even though I say it on my Instagram, my Facebook, my podcast all the time. It doesn't matter what you've got. The way you heal anything is the way you heal everything, with a few subtle differences. And people still say, oh, what if I've got fibromyalgia? Or what if I've got cancer? Or what if I've got? It's like it comes back to the body being toxic, deficient, internally imbalanced, overly stressed, and inflamed. Once we get to the root cause of that, and then your environment and other things that can impact it, once we get to the root cause of that, your body will heal. I've seen it thousands of times with people with all different health issues, from skin issues to gut issues to Alzheimer's to Parkinson's. Who had a client who hadn't been able to stand up in 10 years, got up and danced with his wife, and she was like crying, saying, like, I can't believe it. And it's like, right, when you start to give the body the right, clear out all the chemicals and toxins that are in us, we're consuming, people are eating a credit card of plastic a week.
Yeah, I know.
We're eating like 25 kgs of plastic over our lifetime. That's just one thing. That's
That's
without all.
terrifying. I mean, that's absolutely terrifying. And, they feed it to our animals, and, it's, you're drinking, if you drink from a plastic bottle, and, all of the food in the supermarkets wrapped in plastic. I mean, it's just this toxic stew that we live in. So I want to take you now to talk about different diets, because it is a minefield. Nobody knows what to do. You've got vegans, you've got carnivores, you've got paleo, you've got fasting, you've got the whole bloody lot. The carnivores say that plants bad for you. The vegans say the carnivores, the animals are bad for you. Let's break this down. Let's start the diet. Where do you want to start? Vegans. Let's start with the vegans.
Well, the thing
No,
is,
first of all, before you start, I have to ask you, what are you?
oh, I have a bit of everything. I just go with quality foods and what my body wants and needs. And there's a time to cleanse, there's a time to nourish. Plant foods cleanse, animal foods nourish. You need both. The diet that cleaned you or cleansed you can leave you severely malnourished later on down the line. I've had to deal with many very ill vegans, that have, even people that have cured themselves of cancer by going vegan, and then they've actually basically caused themselves to have cancer again by following that. Because your body, it's like the seasons. You need different things at different times, and just because something's working for you now doesn't mean it's going to work for you long term. And so all those diets you mentioned, vegan, carnivore, fruitarian, keto, they've all got benefits. And short term, they can bring like remarkable results. What generally happens is it's the long term sustainability of them. They're very hard to sustain, just because people want to be able to go out and live their life, but also they generally hit a wall where, for example, with keto, the adrenals just can't take it anymore, and you start to get burnt out. They even realize, oh, actually, it's like the carnivore as well. They started to be carnivore, and now they're like animal based because they realized, well, actually, a little bit of fruit, a little bit of honey, some carbohydrates, the body is optimal on that. And vegans, you've seen so many of, like, Tim Sheaf was probably the most popular one. He was a vegan poster boy. He had his vegan clothing line, vegan supplement brand. He tried everything to stay vegan. He was, pardon me, he was the yeah, he had, like, was he free runner or whatever. He was like a world class athlete in a way. What's it called? Is it parkour, where they do all the yeah, it's like basically, like, he does freestyle running and, like, over obstacles and everything. He was like very good. And you see pictures of him when he started, and then when he turned vegan for 5 years, he looked like he'd been in prisoner of war, and he was trying everything to stay vegan. He was doing urine therapy, drinking his own urine. He was taking all these amino acids, and it wasn't until he finally, like, broke and had some fish eggs and some salmon that his life changed. That evening, he had a wet dream, and his body was just craving meat. And the thing is, we're just all looking. Everyone's looking for absolutes. There is no conclusion. You are a study of one.
Yes, you are absolutely a study of one. That is so spot on and perfect.
And when people start to realize that, like, what works for your friend may not work for you because you've got different backgrounds, you've got different histories, different ancestries. You also have got different stressors. When you are more stressed, and you're going to need more fat, you're going to need more dense foods like protein, because your body is just going to scavenge through. Now, your sexual hormones need. It's the other thing. It's why a lot of long-term vegans, they look grey, they look very pale, they start to get bad breath, rotting teeth, the hair starts to fall out, women stop having periods, because your sexual hormones need nourishment. Your body needs that, and from B vitamins and from certain fats, etc., amino acids, and you just don't get enough in a vegan diet, in a standard vegan diet, unless you're, really looking to ferment foods, and then taking all these things that you could just get from meat. There's a guy out there, what's his, he's the Mormon guy, spends, like, I think it's like $100 a day on his supplements that he takes, when he could just
Bloody
eat meat.
hell.
Yeah, he's super rich. He sold his company for like hundreds of millions. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he's like, he's trying to, like, reverse age and everything. But he's spending all this money on supplements when he could just eat high quality meat. And so, once again, it's not meat. Meat's great. I mean, you go and study any of the tribes that have been eating meat. Dr. Weston Price's book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, it's probably like the Nutrition Almanac. Go and look at these people that have been eating nothing but animal foods. They still have honey, and they'll eat plants in times where they need to. They discovered how to do it. Yes, certain people don't do well on plants because plants got defense chemicals, whereas animals have got teeth and nails and they can fight you. Plants haven't, so they develop defense chemicals. So a lot of people struggle to break them down. They can cause the digestive distress, etc.
Okay, I want to break this down a little bit further for our audience, because this is something that has been put out there quite a lot, that if you're eating certain plants, that they are toxic to the body. I'm not vegetarian anymore. I was vegetarian. I wasn't healthy. I put bone broth back into my diet, and there might be an occasion like Christmas Day where I'll just go, do you know what? I'll have a slice of turkey. But I listen to my body, and my body will tell me exactly what I need. And my body wants plants. It loves and craves plants. So, what would you say to these people, especially those that follow the carnivore diet? What would you say to them when they say that certain plants are toxic to your body?
Well, no, look, once again, you are a study of one. If you eat something and you don't do well in it, listen to your body. People will go to a nutritionist or a doctor or whatever, and a doctor or nutritionist will say, well, these foods are good for you. and they'll eat them. They'll feel terrible, but they'll keep on eating them because it says so on the paper. Your body is going to tell you what's right for you or what's not. If you're eating plants and you're struggling to digest them, or you're getting gas, wind, pain, or bloating afterwards, then maybe you shouldn't be eating them. Same with meat. And if your body does well on plants, and that's how you feel best. I always say, look, there's people out there that are long-term vegans that are flourishing. There's people out there that are long-term carnivore that are flourishing. There are people on those ends of the spectrum. I like to do what's best for most people across the board. And then if we have those outliers, then we work with it. That's fine. I'm dogmatic about quality. I'm not dogmatic about we've got to do this because this is my way. No, no, no. I want you to be the healthiest version of you. And so if there's plants out there, here's another thing. Food combining is another great thing. When people combine all these foods together, it's very hard for the body to break that down, especially in today where people's hydrochloric acid is completely depleted. People's enzyme production are completely destroyed. Alcohol, stress, antibiotics, etc. Processed foods will just destroy all that. So it's very hard for them to digest it. So simple practice of food combining, goes a long way. Eating your plant foods with your carbohydrates and not putting all protein with everything. So and putting your protein with fibrous carbohydrates, it gives the gut, the digestive tract, a much easier time with digesting foods rather than doing everything at once. And so, yeah, there are plants out there. I mean, Dr. Stephen Gundry's book, The Plant Paradox. I like a lectin-free diet because I think lectins cause a lot of issues with people digestively. Through my experience,
Okay, explain what a lectin is for anyone that doesn't know out there.
Well, lectins, it's just it's like a molecule that's it's hard to. They're in plants. I'm trying to explain the best way. It's very hard to break down. It's like I would say protein molecule that's hard to break down. So they're generally the foods that I see people struggle with the most when it comes to that are beans and lentils, etc. And so
And the
although
nightshades can be a problem as well, can't they?
nightshades can be a problem. Peppers for a lot of people. Bell peppers can be a problem for people. So when it comes to that, I'm like, okay, just drop them out and see how you get on. We go through I do like a 21-day reset with all my clients and my guys. It's all my programs. We just go through it and we combine the mental and emotional with the nutritional, and we go through a process and we take things out. And I say, like, how does your body feel when you've taken those things out? And that's generally, I'd say, the lentils and nightshades. Most people do okay with white potatoes. Some people don't, but a lot of people do. And then you've got things like sweet potato. Most people do very good on. But once again, your body. I know clients that just can't have avocados. They eat an avocado and it destroys them. I've got people that can't eat eggs. I've got other. It's like you get vegans saying, "Well, I'm 90% vegan, but I have some eggs." It's like, well, you're not vegan then.
You're not vegan.
So because those eggs make a big difference to your diet, they make a big difference to the nutrients you're getting. And so I say to people, just do what works best for you and find, and if that stops working, have an open mind enough to change. What a lot of people do is they nail their ideology to a particular, and this is one of the reasons we've got like vegan and carnivore, because people are so lost, they haven't got a tribe anymore. And so they come together in these wider groups, and they find their voice there. They find their belonging there, and it's very hard for them to let go of it because they've got all these friends, that they've made during this time, and they really start to. It's almost like a cult following with these things.
It is like a cult, and I'm just going to give you an example of that, which is, well, I thought it was quite funny, but she didn't really. My youngest daughter was on a demonstration once back in, I think, 2018. And there was this lovely tree there in the middle of a square, and lots of banners and bows on it. And it was obviously very much the center of this demonstration. And she went and hugged the tree because I always hug trees. And she just kind of thought, oh, I'll go and do my mother. And everybody was going and hugging the tree. And she didn't realize there was a sign saying, come and hug the vegan tree. And somebody turned around to her and said, oh, brilliant, you're vegan. And she went, no. I went, what are you doing hugging the vegan tree? And she went, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realise it was the vegan tree. And they went mental at her. And she kind of went, oh, that was embarrassing, Mum. And I'm kind of like, it is a cult. It is a cult.
Oh, yeah. And you see each other going back and forth on these things all the time, and people like not um let's say, I hate the term gaslighting because it's from like a woke side of things, and I'm not a big fan of that. But it fits in with this. It's like people gaslight people saying, "Oh, people say, well, I started eating meat again, and my life changed." And they're like, "Well, you didn't do it right." It's like, what are you talking about? I've got so many people that I've interviewed Leah Keith, who was a vegan for like 30 years and did irreversible damage to herself from it, and then I've got people who have done the other way with carnivore, and their digestion, they couldn't digest food after a while. It's just too much meat for them. And so most people sit somewhere in the middle, you know, more plants, a bit of meat, or more meat, a bit of plants, or I do both. If I have too much meat, for example, for me, I feel low, I feel sluggish. I like to have a mixture. That's when I feel my best, because meat is very grounding. It's a grounding food. That's where the energy comes in. So you need some of that. And then so plants are more high vibration. But you need both. It's like the yin and the yang. Vegan diet is very, very yin. That's why after a while, people start to get super malnourished. You can't have just yin. You need the yang as well. And so same as anything in life, you need the
It's
masculine, you need the
balance.
feminine. They complement each other. Like women and men, we're not meant to be everything each other are. We're meant to be everything each other isn't, and that's why we work so well. And so, God gave us all these foods, use them. God, the universe, whatever you want to
Yeah.
say, and
I call it the universe.
yeah, universe, God. I think the God, yeah, capital G, capital O, capital D, rather than any sort of religious God, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. It gave us all these foods for a reason. It's like we just want to be like, well, this is what everyone should, and it's just because it's like, yeah, it does become tiresome, but it's just like do what works for you until it doesn't, and have an open mind enough to change. And if you have a time of stress, you're probably going to need more high calorie animal foods, dense foods. If your body has an appetite at that time, because if it doesn't have an appetite, then it doesn't want you to eat because you won't be able to digest your foods as much. So listen to your body, and there's times when you need to cleanse. I go through cleansing periods 2 to 3 times a year. Super important.
Now,
Detoxification.
that is really important. And I want to talk a little bit more about detox to you because it is, I think, one of the most important things that you can do for your health. And to do it properly, I believe that you should do it under supervision because you have to get the order right. And then once you've cleaned, through the body, you then need to start cleaning the heavy metals out of your body. So can you just talk us through a detox, how you would start just a normal average person on a detox, starting with the bowels, colon? What would you do?
Yeah, but you're right though. What you just said there, nutrition is actually more important. Sorry, detoxification is actually more important than nutrition in today's world because of how toxic things are. It's crazy. So we go through a process. Is the process that we go through, and we combine also the mental and emotional release with this, because as you go through detoxification, you will release things mentally, emotionally, as well as physically. So yes, you'll see things like mucoid plaque, you'll see things like liver stones, but you may be irritable, you may be a bit of a brat, you've got other things coming up. You may have aha moments, you may cry, these things coming out because you're releasing that physical energy of the toxins as well. And so I always start with a 21-day reset just to get the surface toxins away, because I don't want to go too deep. Lots of people come to you, they've never done a cleanse, or if they haven't done one in a while. I go through a 21-day process of allowing us to clear surface toxins, because if you go too deep too quick with a lot of people, you can go into a deep healing crisis, and that's where your body is detoxifying too quickly. And that can cause things like, headaches, nausea, vomiting, vaginal discharge, diarrhea, painful times. So we try to minimize that as much as possible because we want our clients to be able to work and live while they're doing this. So I go through a 21-day process to start, and then we'll move on to the colon. So we go through some gut healing principles first. If people have got gut issues, we'll go through them to make sure we are healing the seal in the gut, which is very important. You mentioned bone broth. That's one of the things we use, things like gelatin. There's other things we use as well. We even use at that time maybe soups and blended foods. So we're taking it's like pre-digested. So we're letting the gut have a bit of rest, even though we're giving it concentrated nutrients. And then we'll go through the colon. super important because, as you said, if you start putting things out the liver and kidneys before your colon's ready, that can cause issues.
I mean, we're a funnel, so if you're not working properly, it's backing up there.
100, there you go. Exactly. Very simple way of looking at it. Great way of looking at it. We're a funnel. So you go through colon, and there's a certain cleansing protocol that I use, and I also use now enzymes to help with these cleanses because the enzymes is the next, is sort of like where we're going with this, and you can clean things super quickly and super deeply with enzymes. So we go colon, then we'll go liver. Liver's a battery of life. If you're, yeah, I mean, if your liver's not functioning, it's linked to so many things as well as anger, resentment. People that are super frustrated, they have a lot of liver issues as well. And the liver doesn't filter toxins; it turns toxins into molecules that we can excrete. And so this is why people, they've got so many people have got a backed up liver because they've just been living our modern lifestyle. And it's before all the toxins that are in the air, but then you've got alcohol, antibiotics, medication, drugs, all these things, are not conducive to healthy liver. So we go for a liver cleansing. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, even the air we breathe. I mean, we are being bombarded the whole time with, everything. I mean, even as a child, I was scared of acid rain, and now I know what I know. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm amazed any of us are alive. I really am. But the body is remarkable, isn't it?
Yep, we are miraculous, and that's why we can. Well, yeah, it's hormesis, right? A little bit of the poison makes us stronger, so we can deal with a little bit of it. We can deal with when we go into those other realms, and that's why just to continue. After liver, we go kidneys, and after kidneys, we go um, parasites and heavy metals, and parasites are another thing that most people have no idea about. They say that 90 to 95% of the world has a parasitic or fungal infection. These things infiltrate your nervous system. They can make you crave foods that you don't want. They can give you attitude.
I mean,
They
they really are clever little bastards, aren't they? They take hold and they are so innately clever. So, talk us through some of the parasites because a lot of people don't talk about parasites. It's not a particularly fashionable subject. Oh, have you got any parasites today? So, let's talk through some of the main ones and what the symptoms might be and how you can test for them.
So symptoms, when it comes to parasites, the list is literally so long. It's everything. Some telltale signs are like if you have an itchy anus, for example, there's some grinding your teeth when you're asleep, nightmares, waking up in sweats. But there's also like itchy skin, skin issues, bad breath, foul smelling wind, like weight gain. There's so many things, craving foods, craving sugary foods. The list is so long, and they can be linked. They've found that they're linked to like cancer and MS and Parkinson's, all linked to parasites. They've seen it in clusters now, and some of the main ones. You've got liver flukes, you've got hookworm, tapeworm, Toxoplasma gondii, which is super prevalent in like South America, but it's even more prevalent over here. It's a parasite that wants to be in a cat, and it's so clever that it will go into a mouse and it will make that mouse less afraid of a cat's smell. So it will actually be in a cat's path and get eaten by the cat, so it can then end up in the cat. So, but it's generally found in
Oh,
the brain.
my God, I didn't know they were that clever.
Yeah,
Oh, my God.
they're found in lots of people who get like motorcycle accidents and car accidents. They're found in their brain because they basically make you less afraid of fear. And like 60%, higher than that, I think 70% of people in South America have them, but it's more prevalent over here now as well. But these things, if parasites love to live in dysfunction, so the more toxic you are, the more in dysfunction you are, the more they're going to take hold. So the cleaner your environment, this is why I always like to say it's like gentrifying an area. The more you clean up your internal environment, the less that they want to be there, and they'll start to move out. They don't want to be there. And so this is why, for example, a lot of people, they want to start cleaning heavy metals out, but a lot of time the candida is there as well because you've got heavy metals. It's actually protecting you from the heavy metals. Parasites can actually protect you in certain ways because you're so toxic, and they're eating up those toxins. But then again, whatever lives in you also like shits in you. So you've got all those toxins coming out. And so, yeah, we go through a parasite cleanse as well. So there's ways that we do that internally. But one of the key things that we do is we use suppositories as well. It's one of the most powerful ways of clearing. And we've actually got a method that we use. We do things orally, and I'd say 6 out of 10 of our clients will release parasites. When we do things with suppositories, 9 out of 10 people will release parasites, and even people that have done tests for them, um, that say that they're negative, they think they find them coming out, because lots of the tests give false positives, they give false negatives, because they're very clever, they can hide. And well, like for example, I'd say when it comes to testing, like if you're looking for minerals and deficiencies, um, hair tests and things like that, they're pretty much next to useless. There's a new one called the oligo scan, which is very, very good. You can do it just by scanning your palm, and it gives an in-depth, instant test. It's quite new compared to other ones that you can take with blood, for example. The thing with the test is as well, I always say you've got to do them over a few days, because if I took a picture of you at 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday, are you the same person at 5 p.m. on a Friday? And so it's just taking a picture of someone at one time and saying that we know anything about them. But I like to do them sporadically. And then with parasites, there's a company, PICP, a parasite testing company that I use. But I like to use biological medicines and testing through Vega machines, or machines as well, because they can pick up frequencies that other times can't. But I generally just say to my clients, you know what? A lot of these tests, even I've seen people come back with negatives and all these things. We've done a parasite cleanse, and parasites have come out. And so it's always just best to detox, especially if you haven't done one before, and especially if you've been abroad. Or, I mean, if you're drinking tap water at all, or you've been abroad, especially
And
in
if you
South.
have pets, if you have a dog and a cat and you're cuddling them, you really should be doing a parasite cleanse. How many times a year would you recommend one?
Probably twice a year, every 6 months or every 9 months. I do one. I'd say it's just with the amount of toxins we're exposed to today. I think it's super important to go for a cleansing of the body at least 2 times a year. At least, very least once, but at least 2 times a year. And that's like if you're living healthily. If you're not even living healthily or in a healthy way, then definitely more. But then you have to start somewhere. Look, for a lot of people, getting out in fresh air for an hour a day, going for a walk an hour a day, eating organic food and drinking, 2 to 3 liters of water a day is going to be a huge improvement. And this is what you mentioned, fasting. Like fasting is great, I think, but it's not enough in today's world. Fasting is great. I'd say like shorter fast things shorter than 7 days can be great. When you go without, you can also go within. So it's very good for the mind, very good for seeing what you're actually, I think they say, find what you can't do without for 2 or 3 days. That's your God. And so that's one thing for fasting it does. And also it pushes your body into autophagy, which means your body starts to eat itself at, say, at a level, get rid of the dead, disease, decaying cells, replace with healthy young new cells. But even with that, because of the amount that we are exposed to today, there's things that we can do to quicken up the process and to go deeper, taking things like binders, negatively charged particles that bind toxins and extract them out, things like citrus pectin, charcoal.
Benetton clay is another one. Zeolite is a good one.
Okay. And then we've got things of actually, there's a Entraso gel, which is actually from the Czech Republic. It's a powerful gel that you can use, and it literally will allow you to release so much mucoid plaque. And then enzymes, things that we're doing with enzymes, super important. And so there's
So the enzymes, and so just so I get this straight and everybody understands, so you're talking about taking digestive enzymes, or are you talking about enzymes that you can do, as an enema or?
so yeah, so you can, so there's yeah, enzyme therapy which you can use, and that can be a great way of clean the body, detoxifying the body as well. It's stuff that Dr. Nick Gonzalez used for cancer, and you can use that anyway on empty stomach. They'll get rid of any of like the denatured proteins in your body, toxins, etc. But I'm talking about using like liquid enzymes. Liquid enzymes. I use them with our liver cleanse, our colon cleanse, kidney cleanse now, and it literally allows the body to clean house and release mucoid plaque, for example, within a day, which usually takes 3 to 4 days to start to be released. So a mucoid plaque is, for people that don't know what it is, it's the medical industry tries to deny its existence. It's called like the black snake of death by a lot of people, but it's just where you've got feces, antibiotics, toxins, etc., all this matter in your gut that hasn't been able to be digested because it's stuck to the walls. It's like imagine looking at a pipe in the ground. This stuff was all stuck to the outside or the inside of the pipe. That's what's stuck to you there. So by taking these enzymes, well, and other things as well, we're able to release it. And when you see what comes out of people, they can't believe it. It's like this black, thick, rubbery substance. You can't even pierce it, So it's once you start to release that,
That's a disgusting thought.
yeah, it's a disgusting thought. But it's something that if you don't release, it just builds up and builds up and builds up, and that stuff seeps out, through your system. And then people wonder why they have like migraines or spots, or they can't concentrate, or they're depressed, their anxiety, they get like depressive thoughts. This is stuff that it needs to come out of your body. And unfortunately, our body wasn't made to deal with all the amount of toxins that we were exposed to today. So
But it's not just toxins that are held within the system.
no,
Emotions are held in the system. There's the wonderful book, The Body Keeps the Score. And when I started my healing journey, I became a very big fan of coffee enemas, and I, was doing my coffee enema every day. And then as I got better, I went down to once a week, and I had colonic irrigation, every couple of weeks because I had a tumor out my throat, and I really wanted to clean my body, and it would be dirty for like 10 minutes, and then the water would run clear for the rest of the hour. And then I had a treatment just after my best friend and soulmate had died, and the same thing happened. 10 minutes of dirty, then clear. But the therapist, who was amazing, just said to me, I know there's something going on in your body that is really very deep, and it's not about your friend dying. Can we go to the max, 3 hours, 3 tanks of water? And I said, okay, let's do it. And so we started, and so it had just been clear for blooming 40 minutes. And she said, but talk about something else, not your friend. So she said, what's your marriage like? Funnily enough, within 2 minutes, the water was black, and it ran out black for the rest of the session, another 2 hours, until about 3 o'clock in the morning. But she said to me, that wasn't actually anything to do with your marriage. That was to do with trauma that was held, that was really old and really stark. And that's about 20, 25 years old. What happened then? Something happened, and your body took that grief and hid it in your gut. My dad died very suddenly of a heart attack, and I was devastated. I was 26 years old and devastated. She said, okay, well, you've just released that. So, the body is just extraordinary what it will do to protect you. My body knew I couldn't deal with that grief. It took it away and hid it for me. It is a remarkable, remarkable piece of equipment. And we're running out of time, and it's just so lovely to talk to you. You're just like a male, younger version of me, Ryan. We've both been on healing journeys, and we've both found the same path, and we're both kind of just desperate for other people to know this information. So I'd just like you to tell everybody where they can find you, and you have a great program, the Revive program. There is so much that everybody can do for their health, and there is always hope. So give us that moment of hope, Ryan, and then tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, no. I was about to say thanks for having me on, and I'd love to have you as a guest on my show to talk about your.
I'd love to come.
Yeah, because the more people more times we can get the message out and get people to understand that their health's in their hands. It's huge, and that's the main thing. I mean, and we've just talked about this. There's so many other things we talk about in terms of the environment, your house, your lifestyle, even the company you keep, all these things. It's
Yeah.
all part of it. And so, yeah, no, it's been a pleasure coming on. And yeah, I've got the Total Health Revival course, which is a self-led course at the moment. People can go through. But you can find me on Instagram at Ryan__Martin__, at www.reviveyourself.co. You can find me at I'll say a podcast on Spotify. Most of my interviews now on YouTube have been deleted, so I'd say Spotify is probably the best. At iTunes, that's Revive Yourself with Ryan Martin, and on Facebook, if you look for Ryan Martin, I'm on there. But yeah, no, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm really interested to hear about your journey.
And I just want to say to all of you lovely people, you know, Ryan's just said there that most of his videos on YouTube have been deleted, and a lot of mine have. I'm on my last legs, I'm sure Ryan is. If you want to continue to hear this information, you've got to help us, guys. You really do. So, to subscribe to all the podcasts on natural health, any information that you want, subscribe to them, make a comment, share it with your friends, because believe me, the algorithm is not going to push this stuff out to you. As I have said so many times on this podcast, there is no money in healthy people, and the doctor of the future is you. Ryan Martin, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure.